We're going to go over a case of appendicitis complicated by abscess in our case series here. And what we have is our axial and our coronals. In this case, this was a known prior perforated appendicitis that's representing. So as we follow our basic search pattern, we're going to try to find the terminal ileum. Oftentimes, I will say it's probably a little bit more challenging, especially in the setting of like a chronic perforated appendicitis. But if we look, we see a bowel loop coming around here. And if we look right here, this is a pretty good look for the terminal ileum coming in and plugging into the cecum somewhere around here. We don't necessarily see the fatty ileocecal valve, but we do get a pretty good sense that that's probably terminal ileum. And then if we look a little bit more closely, it's a very irregular shaped, variably enhancing wall appendix, but it does look like this is the appendix that's coming off, and then it is blind ending up here. So this is not unexpected given that it was a prior perforated appendicitis. So there's a ton of periappendiceal inflammatory changes and fat stranding, and we can probably even see that this is probably the site of prior perforation, or one of them rather, as it's a little, and then we see that there's a little maybe contained perforation here. So in the end, what we want to do is actually look for air. We know it's a prior perforation, but we still look for free air always. In this particular case, there's two areas that really kind of stand out. There's this area right here that we'll come back to, and then what I mentioned as well too, this area of maybe small contained perforation. It's outside the lumen wall, so there's some air there. And then what we can do is go back and look for free fluid on our soft tissue window. And again, we've already identified this area. Wouldn't necessarily say this is like a large enough collection to drain, but there is a little bit of, semi-contained or contained free fluid here, maybe a small developing abscess. But then when we come up here, we see that this actually does not connect to any bowel directly. At a glance, it may look like a loop of bowel with gas in it, but this is actually an organized fluid collection, an abscess. So we have this abscess here, and if we measure it, it's about 2 centimeters, and then maybe a little contained abscess here, not very large. So in the end, we do have our abscess here, prior perfed appendicitis, and then you can think about, is this accessible from a percutaneous approach? Probably not in this case, because it's so central, there's so much surrounding bowel, and then there's really just kind of important structures completely around it, or bone blocking the percutaneous approach. So in the end, this is probably not something that can be drained percutaneously, but that's an example of a prior perfed appendicitis complicated by abscess.